Hello Year 9. This video will help you with the last part of task 2.3 in your workbook. That's this one here. It's all about the importance of antibiotics. So in this part of the task, we're going to think about this question. Are antibiotics a turning point in the way we treat disease? Now, this word turning point means a key moment, the start of a really important and long-term change. So we're going to consider whether antibiotics really were a turning point. So the next thing that you need to do is to read this section of text in your workbook. And while you're reading, I want you to think about the following questions. In fact, I want you to highlight or underline anything in the text which might help you to answer them. So here's the first question. Are antibiotics really different and better than previous treatments? Here's the second question. Have antibiotics had a widespread impact on the treatment of disease? And lastly, have antibiotics had a lasting long-term impact on the treatment of disease? Now remember, you're going to highlight or underline anything in the text which will help you to answer those questions. So pause the video now, have a go, and when you're ready, hit play. So let's have a look at this. Our first question was, are antibiotics significantly different and better than previous treatments? Well, in some ways, they're very similar. They're used in a very similar way to magic bullets. We put them into the body in order to hunt down and kill harmful microbes. But there are some big differences too. Antibiotics are made from microorganisms, not artificial chemicals. And that means that they are much less harmful to the body than magic bullets like Salvarsan 606. Our second question was, have antibiotics had a widespread impact on the treatment of disease? There's a lot of positive impacts here. We now have a really wide variety of antibiotics for treating different illnesses. And some of them are effective even on very deadly infections like tuberculosis. Over the last 50 or 60 years, thousands of lives in Britain have actually been saved by the use of antibiotics. And because antibiotics are so successful, patients now trust their doctors more and go to see them when they need help because they know that the doctors can prescribe an antibiotic which will really cure them. So patients' faith in doctors has improved. As you can see in this area, antibiotics really have had a very widespread impact. And here's our third question. Have antibiotics had a lasting and long-term impact on the treatment of disease? Now on this question, we are not yet able to give an answer. It's too early for us to say. Antibiotics are relatively recent. They've only been developed over the last 60 or 70 years. And actually, we've seen that bacteria and microbes are increasingly becoming resistant to antibiotics, and we don't yet know how that's going to develop in the future. It might be that antibiotics no longer work in the future if bacteria become resistant to them. So we don't yet know whether antibiotics will have a long-term impact on the treatment of disease. Now you're ready for your final task. You're going to write one paragraph to answer this question, where antibiotics are a turning point in the way we treat disease. In your paragraph, I'd like you to try to get a sense of debate. That means I want you to have two sides. You're going to put forward some evidence to show that antibiotics were a turning point, and you're going to counter that with some evidence that perhaps antibiotics might not be a turning point. So you're going to write a two-sided paragraph. At the end, I want you to reach a final decision. When you're writing, you might find it useful to use these phrases. You can start your answer with "on one hand", then you're going to switch to the second side and you're going to say "however", and then at the end you reach a judgment. So you could say "on balance, I think".